A young woman with follicular lymphoma walked into Dr. Alan Goldhamer's clinic. She underwent a strict 21-day water fast. By the end, her tumors had visibly shrunk, but the doctor's order for her discharge was absolute: adhere strictly to the whole food dietary protocol going forward, or the resulting relapse would be fatal. This stands in stark contrast to the standard medical protocol for chronic illness. Patients diagnosed with high blood pressure, diabetes, or autoimmune disorders are generally told they have a lifelong condition that must be carefully managed. The underlying assumption is that the body is permanently broken, and the only path forward is to mitigate the damage. Treating a symptom with a daily pill leaves the root cause of the disease entirely untouched. It keeps the patient alive, but it tethers them to a permanent, highly profitable regimen of medication, rather than actually resolving the illness. When researchers study longevity, they often observe that restricting a subject's food intake extends its lifespan, but it is more accurate to view it from the opposite direction. Eating constantly is what cuts a natural lifespan in half. For most of human history, chronic ailments like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and gout were incredibly rare. They were literally documented as the diseases of kings because only the wealthy elite had consistent access to enough calories to actually develop them. Today, those royal ailments are ubiquitous. The industrialization of mass-produced, heavily processed foods brought elite caloric access directly into our supermarket aisles. Now, 76% of the population is overweight or obese. The average person is unknowingly living with the dietary habits of a gluttonous monarch. The current obesity epidemic is the systemic result of a food environment engineered specifically for hyperabundance and constant caloric intake. We are walking around in biological engines designed to survive scarcity, completely flooded with excess fuel. And that surplus is exactly what is making us chronically sick. To observe how the body reacts when that excess fuel is cut off, we can look at the suppressed clinical data coming out of Dr. Goldhamer's True North Health Center. His team conducted a peer-reviewed study focusing on stage 3 hypertension. These were patients with severely high blood pressure, heavily reliant on multiple daily medications just to stay alive. The researchers took 174 consecutive patients and placed them on a medically supervised water-only fast. No food, no pills. This chart shows the results. Every single person, 174 out of 174 patients, saw their blood pressure drop into a healthy, normal range, and they achieved it with zero medication. Compare that to the standard care model they were trapped in before. Conventional treatment manages the high blood pressure by adding more and more drugs over a patient's lifetime. Prescribing pharmaceuticals for this condition is treating a symptom that is entirely driven by a toxic diet. The medication simply masks the body's natural warning signal. Chronic hypertension represents a physiological reaction to dietary toxicity. Stopping the toxic input allows the condition to vanish the moment the source is removed. What actually happens inside the human body when you stop eating is a highly coordinated physiological sequence. Within the first 24 hours of a fast, your body exhausts its immediate energy reserves, completely depleting the stored sugars, known as glycogen, housed in your muscles and liver. This creates an immediate biological problem. The human brain is a massive, energy-hungry organ. If it runs out of glucose, the body faces imminent starvation. To keep the brain functioning, the human body flips an evolutionary switch. It transitions away from burning glucose and taps into an alternative fuel source, its own stored fat. As this metabolic flow chart demonstrates, once the red glucose reserves hit zero, fat is broken down into molecules called ketones, specifically beta-hydroxybutyrate, which flow directly up to power the brain. This process heavily targets visceral fat. That is the highly inflammatory, dangerous fat that wraps around your internal organs and drives chronic disease. At the same time, the body enters a biological housekeeping state called autophagy. Deprived of external nutrients, it scavenges and consumes its own internal waste, clearing out damaged senescent cells, toxins, and even tumors. This entire mechanism evolved to keep early humans alive when winter came and food disappeared. Today, it serves a different purpose. It is the primary biological tool we have to systematically burn away the toxic buildup of the modern diet. The effects of fasting continue long after digestion resumes, particularly inside the gut microbiome. When you cut off the food supply, you starve out toxic gut bacteria. Clinical studies show that a 7-day water fast results in an 80% drop in harmful strains, like fusobacteria, resetting the gut's flora. It also triggers a phenomenon called taste neuroadaptation. By depriving the palate, sensory receptors recalibrate. When a patient finally eats a simple whole fruit, it suddenly tastes remarkably rich and sweet. This recalibration is vital because of something called the pleasure trap. The food industry deliberately engineers products with concentrated salt, oil, and sugar to artificially hijack your brain's dopamine and bypass your natural signals for fullness. Modern ultra-processed products serve as industrial carrier agents, specifically engineered to deliver addictive, lab-engineered chemicals directly to your palate. When your dietary instincts have been systematically co-opted by an industry that profits from your consumption, fasting serves as your only biological reset to escape that control.